You are now listening to the iWalter Show. Real talk about nothing.
Faster than a speeding bullet, more powerful than a locomotive, able to leap tall buildings in a single bound. Look, up in the sky, it's a bird brain, it's a plane, it's iWalter. Yes, it's iWalter, strange visitor from another planet who came to Earth with powers and abilities far beyond those of mortal men. iWalter, who can change the course of mighty rivers, bend ears with his annoying voice, and who disguised as Walter Interranti, mild-mannered janitor for a great metropolitan newspaper, fights a never-ending battle for truth, nonsense, and the American way. And now, another exciting episode in the adventures of iWalter.
All right. Hey, this is Walter from iWalter. I was actually not going to do a show right away because I just started work on Monday. Now, it's only Wednesday morning now, but still, I'm trying to get back into the swing of things with work. But I felt compelled that I had to do one. It usually takes something... Because as my mother would tell me, this is like therapy for me doing these shows. And it really is. You know, it's a way for me to vent myself. That's my main reason for doing them. Now, I have to say once again, I might have said this the other day, I'm going to say it again. I really want to thank my friend Matt for actually having the decency, which I really, I'm saying that in an honest way, for, helping me out. Because it actually was kind of a send-off from, my 6 months I was off from work. I got paid the whole time, but I was off for 6 months, and, what a better way to, end this time I had off than having a friend on that actually, I thought, made a really good show. It's better than, I'm doing a lot of ums, I know. He laughed about that when I was catching myself doing that. And he does listen to my show, so I appreciate that. So, that was cool, but, already I'm just getting a little bit, obviously, and I haven't even started. For the last 2 days, I haven't had anything to do, because they're still waiting to get everything back to normal, because where I work, you have to have badge access, and my badge was actually, on Monday, was not activated, even though they said it was, and I told them on Friday, is everything going to be straightened out by the time I come back? They said, oh, sure, and they never bothered to do so. And then they ran into some complications with my badge all day Monday, and I worked second shift. So the problem with that was I had a hard time, getting around, so to speak. So that wasn't that fun. So, and it was aggravating because today I had to get up early. I had an appointment that I have every Tuesday lately, and I think it's going to get to the point more out of... One, it's for my hair, to help regrow my hair, because, as you get older, your hair thins out, and I wanted to try to get it to probably get a little bit of my hair back before I would get a big bald spot in the back of my head. I mean, it's kind of noticeable now, but I'm hoping to reverse part of that. So I go to this place over at King of Prussia Mall every Tuesday, and reason I'm saying I might stop that, it's just, the personality of the person who's the receptionist is not very friendly, and I kind of caught wind of that even more so today. It's like, well, I'm giving you $50 a week for this treatment, laser treatment on my hair to help it regrow or strengthen the hair I have. And, one thing I learned, I remember this was drilled in my head. I'm jumping around tonight, which is nothing new. But you have to have good customer service, because I remember my boss at my one job years ago, his name was Gary from some place called I Got It at Gary's. There was actually two of them. One I actually really liked. One was, it's not important about their names, but there was two different Garys they actually met in college, and they won the business together on opening, a chain of stores. But the one who was, he was being honest. You have to be this way. He was being truthful, I should say. Honest would probably be too strong of a word. Is good customer service is very important no matter where you work, because if you come off being an asshole, so to speak, or, just being arrogant or pompous, people remember that. And I remember this still to this day, that, and he was a hypocrite. He even knew he couldn't work with people. He was really hostile to the people who worked for him. he had people that were, he took care of this one Gary, not both of them. He took care of all the paperwork, and, he did the management because he owned the place. And he made sure after a while to stay out of the limelight. Like, he didn't go directly communicate with customers because he was really harsh on the customers. And I'm talking like he had a couple different businesses, but this one that was the most popular one he had that actually was a chain, he kind of realized himself, I can't deal with people and, won't have any customer base if I'm being a smartass to him in any form of the word. So he had like next to the one store, he had his corporate building, so to speak, or his offices. Now not even a corporate building. And, I heard the horror stories, how he treated the higher-ups, that worked around him. And you kind of try to deal with him, but, behind his back, I know a lot of times they just said he was a real asshole. Smart man, though. Very smart man, but he was an asshole. He did know how to run a business. So, but he had no people skills. And there was a reason I'll lean into that, or, go into that. Not with Gary as much, but why I mentioned it. But there's this place over the King of Prussia, near King of Prussia Mall, that it's one of the few places left. They don't really do hair restoration. They do a little bit. It's not guaranteed, though. Nothing really is. But they're upfront about that. And they're only open, it looks like, because I can't even remember. I actually have a card right here, so I'm not going to hesitate to mention her name because they're not very friendly. Well, one woman who's a receptionist is not very friendly to me. She acts like she is, but I can kind of see right through it. It's called Style Rama, STYL-RAMA. So, I've been going there for almost, I would say definitely over a month. And again, you have to have good customer service. You can't be a smartass. And part of good customer service is you're polite to your customers. They're the ones who are giving you cash, which means you're not obnoxious. You don't degrade, belittle, or just be, and have good eye contact. I mean, I know my one friend, Matt, I guess you would say this, you have a hard time with eye contact, but I don't think you do, but you think you do. But you realize, that's important. You have to have good eye contact if you want to keep your employees or at least get new ones, because I know after a while some people can just be, you don't want them as customers anymore. That's true for anywhere, and you want to get rid of them. No matter, in any business you might work in, you want to get rid of them after a while, and you're going to find a way to make their life that they're going to say, you know what, I'm not going to come back here. But I don't give people a reason to do that, and this place is always empty when I'm in there. They have, I would say the most I've seen, and they're only open twice a week, was probably one or two people come through, and that's about it, and older people. And the one person that was there, he had a lot of hair. I don't know what the guy was doing there, but he was a customer, older man, and he had a nice thick head of hair. So either, hey, he's getting those treatments done, and it's really working, or he's just trying to keep it going, like he's afraid of, well, my hair, might have a possibility, because he was a much older man than me. But either way, they were very friendly. But I go in there, it's like every week, it sends pains to my stomach, pains in my chest when I got to deal with this every week. But this receptionist, really poor eye contact. She just throws things at me. And she's a little bit on the snooty, obnoxious side, and she's nobody who has any room to do that. So today she did that, and she even throws, you give her your credit card. Usually, I forget where it was that it was the total opposite. I wasn't used to that. Very polite. I think it was a Best Buy. This is something totally different, obviously, now I'm talking about. But I'm talking about customer service, where the girl went out of her way. Very good. Oh, actually, it was a Best Buy up in. Now I remember. It was up in Collegeville, I believe, or at least around that area. Very, very polite girl. Very good eye contact. She made sure to hand me a pen or a piece of paper that you put on your credit card to sign the receipt. She wasn't focused on her cell phone, or I don't think she even had her cell phone. If she had one, I don't know. The important thing is you treat the customer as a number one, and she obviously proved that. This girl at Best Buy is going to go obviously very far. She was very friendly. She made you feel like you were, you know, really like a very important person. It was like, wow, you're really going above and beyond. It was at a customer service thing. I ordered some movie. It was a couple of weeks ago. I can't even remember what it was, but I got it because I had Best Buy credit, and it cost me, I think, like not even $10. But she was really friendly. She made sure to hand you stuff. Very good eye contact. Very polite to me, which is the total opposite what I get every week. I'm only there for half an hour once a week. I give them $50 for a half hour of a laser treatment. They don't even have to stand there for. But it's like this receptionist at this Stylorama has very poor eye contact. You're basically giving your money just to be tormented and basically ridiculed for 1 minute one way and another minute the other way. And it's just throwing the papers at you, laying them. And if you put your hand out, she's going to put it. I've had smart asses like that before. You put your hand out to not that she gives you change. I give her a credit card, but hey, you have your hand out to get the change, and they put it on the counter because they don't want you to touch them. I mean, that's and no eye contact, zero eye contact. It's like, listen, I'm not going to see you for another week now. And I was actually at the point today. I was ready to say, you know what, I can't deal with you anymore. I'm just like ready to say, hey, if this works, I'll just bite my tongue and just ignore her when she acts like a total asshole. But it's just it digs in my groin every week. I got to deal with this. So I do this. She left the door open this time. She totally ignores, like, listen, I'm here. I'm paying your paycheck, even though you only work twice a week at this job for a handful of hours because this place is not open. And there's other places like this Stylorama that were around King of Prussia, and guess where they are now? They don't even exist. So, and I mean, as the economy gets more and more tougher for people to afford stupid things like this, I will say it's stupid, they're going to be getting even less business. And, you kind of do this stuff. I think the reason I do it is for hope. And two, everybody is hopeful they can get their hair. Probably the same reason my mother goes to a hairdresser once a week, which she really doesn't need to. She could do it herself, wash her hair and style it. She can do it herself. She has more than enough time, but she doesn't. Why does she go to a hairdresser? Probably the same reason I do. This is what I'm trying to say. You kind of do it just for, make yourself feel better. And that's why you go to a place for customer service. And what's the importance of customer service? Well, customer service means that the person treats you like you're you're getting a little bit of pampering. You go to a salon, you want to be pampered, not people throwing pens at you and giving you no eye contact and treat you like you're a piece of dog crap. Now you're saying you're probably like just reading too much into this. Well, it was funny. While I was sitting for this half-hour treatment, you're under this thing that looks like a glorified blow dryer, but it isn't. It shoots lasers on your head for pretty much a half an hour. And, she had somebody else coming through the door, and she was like falling all over the person. And she even asked what she never did to me. I know my mother got upset about this, too, before at some hair salon she went to. She stopped going to it, I think, because she got so upset about it. She said, hey, my mother sure spend like $50, $60 a week just getting her hair done. I think it's kind of ridiculous. But she does it because it makes her feel good. She gets to talk to women, and it makes her, they make her, if it's a place run properly, they make her feel, good about herself. And that's why you do this stuff. You don't go there to be treated like a piece of, fecal matter, because those people are, obviously, I think, Matt, you would say this, these people have a very low self-esteem about themselves, so they take it out on you. And that's true if he would say that. That is absolutely true, and I think that's what it is. But that doesn't take away from the fact that they're being a total asshole for whatever reason, and it's not a very good one. So, and, it's like I'm doing it and it's the only place around. Trust me, if I knew of another place that was around the area that did the same kind of treatments or something that would be effective on regrowing hair, I would leave that place in a heartbeat. Because I did the one day I checked out a multitude of places within the area. Most of them, actually 90% of them, were all closed down. And this place I wasn't even going to go back to because I got a bad feeling. Not on like that they're not effective on what they do. It's just like I didn't like, you kind of get a feel from the person who's the receptionist, and she's always there. Now, one time she wasn't, and there was this other woman who actually does. They actually make wigs for people if they're really bald, and they basically can do other stuff. But this one woman, she's extremely nice. She's a nice older woman. She always asks you how you're doing. She has good eye contact and everything. But she's not the main receptionist. But the main receptionist has such a bad attitude. I just can imagine how long, if you do the same treatment, which it seems to apply to me, because, again, what I was going to finish out, not only did she pamper, like, you could hear her falling all over these people. She even said, "Oh, would you like some coffee and stuff? Can I get you anything to drink? I could get you something." She never asked me that. She tries to get away from me as quickly as possible. It's like, I didn't do anything. I just go there for treatment. And one time I did lose my temper a little bit on her. For a split second, I said, I kind of got a little bit smart with her because I know she's, obviously she's got something issue. And I think it goes back to, hey, I'm a white male again. This is what that goes into. And she's got a problem with that. She feels, obviously I can tell, I can sense it. She feels actually a little bit, for some reason, I don't know why, but she feels intimidated by me. So what do people do when they feel intimidated by a person? They get really sarcastic and very passive-aggressive. That's the best way to put it. I'm sorry, my speaker sounds like I might have a little bit high tonight. So I apologize about that. I just want to do too much adjustments. I don't want to be up all night. And now that I'll be doing my shows, if I do any, it's going to be at 2 o'clock in the morning, which it is now, almost 3. I don't have time to make too many adjustments. So anyway, that does put me in a bad damper mood. Going back and, I got a lukewarm reception. The first day I got back, they, from 6 months ago when they were trying to accuse me of getting hurt in a way that I did not get hurt, they try to push that 6 months later, this allegation that was completely bogus. It was slander because it's written now. A written statement that said I had, quote unquote, at my job, I slipped and fell on a wet floor. And even I work for a union. My union representative was kind of like scratching his head when they gave this bogus excuse because they said, "Oh yeah, Walter," because I'm a glorified janitor. They said, "Well, Walter mopped himself into a corner that he couldn't get himself out, and he slipped and fell on a wet floor." And the guy said, "Well, why would he mop himself into a corner that he couldn't get out?" And they said, "And why would he have to wait if he did to get out of the corner? That would make no sense either way." And they came up with some excuse. Well, he did do it. And I was like, well, how do you know exactly what I did when you weren't even there? There's no cameras or anything that could prove your theory. You're just making this up. When I told him the truth, and I told him, listen, my booty got caught. We have to wear these paper booties over our shoes to keep the floors from getting dirty and stuff. And where I work, it's kind of a laboratory setting. It's a factory job, basically, though, really. But, most factory jobs, depending on what you're working with, you have to keep your environment sterile, so to speak. So I have these things that I put things on these racks. We call them Metro carts. Basically what they are is they're metal racks you put your whatever you're bringing in and out on. And it locked up, and these paper booties I had on. I'm not making any sense to anybody, I know. Got caught on the wheel, and I fell on my back. I hit my head really hard, my back of my head. In fact, I still feel a lump, and once in a while I do get some sharp pains in my head still. And this is 6 months after the fact. And yet they said, well, you were on the wet floor. It's like, no, I wasn't. But yeah, you were. So the bottom line is, just to make me look bad and to punish me for something I did not do, they made up some lame story, which if it would go to court, they would have no grounds to stand on because it would be definitely. And I had a witness when they tried to explain this, and it made no sense. My union president was there, and he was scratching his head again. If I would take this to court, they would lose so severely, it wouldn't be funny. So, but it's just a way to incriminate me, so they look like they're they're doing the right thing. They're concerned about me. They're not concerned about me at all. So anyway, I don't want to go into a long discussion. I just wanted to kind of, again, do a little bit of stories tonight, just to vent, as I would say. Now, I was thinking about this, and I didn't know how to explain it. And one thing I want to put out real quick, because I feel really bad for this poor kid, and I got to say this out. It's this woman's kid. I don't know where he's from, because for some reason, somebody who, they actually started another webpage for this kid. He's got some type of thing. I don't know how to put it, because my mother had the same issue. She had a brother where her brother was a vegetable. And this kid, I feel so bad for him because he got really severely picked on. He loves horror movies. But this kid, I don't know how old he is now, because I think he would have been 20. He is 27, or he would be 27. But his mom really goes out of her way to put up a lot of pictures of her kid, because the kid's a total vegetable. I'm sorry, I don't know how else to put it. But he seems to know, aware of some things. Now, my mother had a brother who was like this. He was a total vegetable. And my mom said that he couldn't do anything on his own. He was he couldn't move or do anything. And he couldn't even eat regular solid food. He had to eat baby food his whole entire life. And he died around, when he was alive, he died around age 24 or 27. So, my heart goes out every time I look at these pictures of this kid. And again, I'm not sure exactly where he's from. Now, I'm looking at something that's written, apparently it looks like it's written in German. So maybe the woman's Germany or something, because somebody actually wrote something about this. I'm sorry for going in a different direction. My mind, wherever it goes, I'm just going to go with it tonight. I hope you don't mind. But he got really picked on because he loves horror movies. So apparently, he likes horror movies. So his mom actually buys him a lot of the stuffed animals and, all the paraphernalia for, if that's the right word, for all these horror movies. It looks like he even has, a collection of the different dolls of Chucky, Jason Voorhees, Freddy Krueger, dolls and everything, like her sleep with dolls and stuff. The kid can't really move on his own. And I'm sure he's like my uncle, my mom's brother, where he has to, have somebody probably feed him. His teeth are really bad, too. It just breaks my heart every time I see this guy, this kid or this guy, I don't know. It really does. It breaks my heart. And it really broke my heart, though, when I heard that people were mocking this kid that can't even fend for himself. He might be a young adult. I don't know. And again, I don't even know if I got an impression that he died years ago, but he might have had another brother who also was unfortunate and probably a vegetable too. Now, that could be the case, and he might have died. But this one kid, she keeps on posting new pictures. So I don't know if these pictures are actually really new, or are these pictures when he was before he died. I don't really know. She doesn't really make it noted, is he still alive or not. I hope he is. I don't want to wish anything bad upon him, and I don't know where he's really from. I'd love to know. But again, my heart goes out. He's barely got any teeth. He's got, because he can't really take care of himself. His mother has to do everything for him. And she's got a couple other kids, too, that, are grown adults, I guess, so to speak, or young adults. So I added this kid. I don't know if I gave the name, because they don't give his name, I don't think. But his mom's name's Debbie Haverlin. And every time I look at these pictures, I was almost in tears. I had my mom almost in tears because she said, yeah, it reminds me of my uncle, her brother. His name was Michael. And it really broke her up seeing this kid. I was like, yeah, that's the same way I reacted looking at these pictures of this guy or this kid, that he can't take care of himself, and that people would just rip him apart and make fun of him for being, not be able to take care of himself. He's pretty much not even a grown child, but a grown baby. But he does love horror movies. And it just tears my heart apart when I see this every time. I'm looking at it right now. That's why I had to mention it. And any support I can give him, I can't really do anything much financially. But if it came down to that, I think I probably would. I mean, hey, the kid loves horror movies like I do. The guy does. And just seeing the way he is just really tears, again, it just upsets me. I don't like seeing anybody. That's why I could never even work with people with any type of disability, I take it to heart every time. I wouldn't be able to do it. So anyway, I'm sorry, I got distracted with that, obviously. And, I hope I could get more people. She added me, this woman added me, I think right away, because she loves people to, give positive feedback to her son. Again, I'm not sure what his situation is, unfortunately, though. I just know that she puts up a lot of pictures of him. Like, she spends every waking moment taking pictures of the guy. But I don't know if they're new or old. So anyway, I won in that, and, I don't know where to go with this, so I apologize. But I know one thing. Going back to work, it's just been already depressing. Now, since day one, it's only been 2 days. I don't know how long I'm going to be able to survive, honestly. And until things get better or if something else comes along, I'll be out of that place in a heartbeat. I might be out sooner, though, too, because we have a contract that we have to sign for our union May 1st, which is not that far away. So we could be even out the door at that point, which it'll really suck, because if I have no income, what am I going to do? But I was kind of wishing I was going to add a little longer until this kind of blew over with what would happen. I think they personally brought me back because I think they want to get us out the door. I think when the contract comes up, they're going to make it so difficult for us to accept the contract and give us that they're going to force us to go out the door and, make us they want us to strike. They want us to go out on a strike. That would make them so happy, and I think they're preparing for that personally. Where I work, my company. So, that being said, I left 6 months ago. I came back, and nothing's changed. And the attitude of the people hasn't changed. They're just with the exception of a handful of people, they're very rude still. And the night before, even last night, I've been having, I haven't had any problems in 6 months. Now, this was one thing that I remember Matt introduced me to Milo, and I said this other time. Milo says that, and it's true, it's the females that always cry rape and complain about stuff, and it's true at where I work. I'm sure Matt's going to say, well, I knew you were going to start talking about that, Walter. But that was the situation where I work, that if you're a white male, and it's true, Milo said this too, that the white males are forced that they're too aggressive, they need to calm down, they got to put everyone on medication, even the ones in college. And that's what happened to me. They forced me to take medication that would sedate me at my job because they said I'm, out of control. I'm pushing 50 years old, and honestly, my whole life, I've had incidents where I, had outbursts, but that's from people just kind of really seeing how far they can push my buttons. But within 50 years, I've never been on medication. And it's only been a handful of times where I just got pushed so far that anybody, I don't care who it is, would not be able to take the amount of stress that I've been put under. So I just amuse him. I let him think that I take medication, which I don't, because all it does is make me sedated. Now, if you're doing it voluntarily, that's a different story. I know people who take certain medicines voluntarily. Well, if you do it on your own accord, that's one thing, but you're doing it because, just to have better control over me, which that shouldn't be the case. If you actually had your organization organized properly and you did things the way you're supposed to, I shouldn't be on medication, because that means that you are actually doing your job, but which you're not doing. And obviously, I just mentioned this too. They're trying to make me a scapegoat on, that I was being irresponsible and doing my job, which caused me to get hurt, which was not even the case. It was a faulty product that they or material they may, or I'm not even using the right word. It's called protective gear that they make you wear. That the protective gear is faulty, not me. But they couldn't take the blame themselves. They had to blame somebody else, which in this case was me. So, which led to me being out for 6. And then they were trying to figure out a way to get rid of me. It was kind of obvious. They paid me for 6 months, and they couldn't find any way, so they finally got to the point they had to allow me to come back. And I caught them in quite a few lies, too. one of the lies I caught them is they said that they were going to pay for me to get some psychological tests done so they can figure out how to evaluate me on what I'm actually capable of doing as far as work goes and what I can't do. And I heard this right from a psychiatrist that I was forced to see since I've been at, for the last couple of years at this job. So then they said that we never said that. And apparently it was this woman that works in our health services at my job. I asked some other woman I do like to talk to, a coworker. She's had problems with this one particular woman at my job. She works in this health services. And she says, I've caught her in a lot of lies. This woman from health service, not the woman I had spoken to. The woman from health services is a nurse. My coworker is a coworker. And she says, yeah, I've caught her in lies. And she said she's going to find herself in this nurse at our job is going to find herself, quote unquote, someday, probably in a hefty lawsuit for trying to be somebody she's not. She's like one of these, one of these stories you probably read where a person tries to, because I forget where I saw that, where some guy, or was it a guy or something, was practicing a business of being a private doctor, and yet he never had a degree at all, and he had a private practice. Well, this nurse is the same way. She's given out diagnoses to people and evaluations, and she's not even a qualified person to do that. She does not have the qualifications to say, okay, well, she told my psychiatrist doctor, she said, you need to give, quote unquote, Walter, because he told me himself. I'm not making this one up, because my doctor told me this, and unfortunately, if I knew he was going to say that, I would have taped it. I would have recorded it without him knowing it, just so I would have had proof of it. Because I tried to get him to say it again with a witness, and he denied everything. But he told me right to my face one time. He says, because I told him, I said, well, you're telling me I need to get this test to go back to work because I was out for 6 months. This psych evaluation test. And he said, no, it wasn't me who told me you had to take this test. He said, it was so-and-so, this nurse at my job. She told me specifically the test that I need to give you. And he said, once you get this test, we can evaluate Walter on how we're going to give him work. Well, I told a woman a coworker at work, this woman I talked to, and she said, yeah, she does that all the time. She tries to act like she gives out diagnoses and stuff. And she said, this coworker of mine, she said, I told her right out, this nurse at work. She said, I told this nurse right out. She says, you have no authority to give out these diagnoses and pretend like you know how to do this stuff, or you're not a doctor. You can't give a diagnosis, and especially on a psychological sense. You don't have the credentials to do it. You don't have the right to do that. So that right there, and I think that the company caught wind of what she was doing, so eventually they had to bring me back. But in the process of me being out, they were also trying to figure out a way to get rid of me. And they couldn't legally fire me without it turning into a lawsuit. Because everybody I've talked to, spoken to, different people. And, Matt, you're probably going to ask who to talk to. Well, it's my parents, obviously. My dad said we should have probably looked into, because I could have gotten a free consultation with, or what do you call it? Not a consultation. Matt, if you were here, you would help me out with this. But a thing that, you basically just evaluate, or what do you call it? A free thing where you go to a lawyer and you give your lawyer your case, and he decide if he wants to take it on, at what I would win, he takes his percentage off of that. But that initial time I would go to see a lawyer, company appointed lawyer, which I don't know if that's good or bad, because the lawyer you would get from the company, even though it would be free, would be one that would be, somebody that works with also my company. But it would be a strong case. And we were considering doing that. But I did talk to friends. Matt, you listen to me. And then Todd, obviously, my other friend. So, and everybody came, other people just in general I talked to, they came to the same conclusion, like, yeah, obviously the reason, why are they paying you for one thing? And obviously they knew they did something wrong. And two, they wanted to figure out at the time that I was out there trying to figure out a way, well, how can we get rid of this Walter that he can't come back? You know, can we find him? Because obviously I knew from the get-go they were trying to find me mentally incompetent. Well, trying to find somebody mentally incompetent is, honestly, it's not going to work unless you have a strong case, because all you're going to end up falling back, it's going to blow up in your face. It would have blew up in their face, because they're going to say, well, if this guy is mentally incompetent and he did the job for 12 years or 13 years, how come he was able to do it for so long and you allow them to do the job? Now all of a sudden it's an issue because he's got mental illness, but you allowed him to do it for 13 years. It would make no sense. It would have just blew up in their face. And I think truly, because I've been in different departments where I work, I think they didn't know. I think they thought differently. They probably thought, well, you know, he's only been in our department for the last 3 years. We're going to figure out a way to finally get rid of this nuisance. And they obviously thought they could. But what ended up really happening is they did not get rid of me, because they ended up having me come back. Then they try to find some poor excuse why it was my fault for getting hurt, which had nothing to do with mental illness or anything, but they try to make it into that. And they end up letting me back in. And I asked for a reason, why am I back? Do I need to get this test done that you apparently told me I had to take? And they couldn't give me a straight answer. It's basically about as good as what you would get from the government at this point as far as a straight answer. You wouldn't get one. It's just talking in circles would be the best way to say it. So that's enough to be a nuisance. And I look at this place, and I don't know how else to put it, but the place is run like a circus. I mean, you got people who still spend about 90% of their time on downtime. And, I've been doing it. I have no room to speak, but I can't do anything. I'm not allowed to, because I have to, for being out for 6 months, I got to be retrained on whatever I was doing. They can't just put me back on the job. They're not allowed to. They can't say, okay, well, it's only been 6 months. You can come back to work. You can do whatever you want to do. No, that's not the case. They can't do that. So they have to retrain me, but they can't even do that because they can't even get card access for me to get into the building to begin with. They did today for a bit of time, but then they said the computer systems are all messed up. So then that ended up not being the case. And then you have to get computer access to do what's called Standard Operating Procedure. No, yeah. It's abbreviated to SOPs. My one friend, he works, and he says, yeah, we have something similar. I know what an SOP is. Stands for Standard Operating Procedure. Basically what it is, it's a lot of red tape, a lot of paperwork you have to read over. And what they do is they make you go on a computer, read for all this jargon on how procedures are done, how you do, for me, cleaning, or other things, and then you sign off on it. Once you sign off on it, if you get hurt on that job, they can say, well, look, you read through this paperwork, you said you understood it fully how this procedure is done, so you're at fault, not us. They try to find ways to just quickly blame you for everything and anything. So I even said to friends and stuff, I'm not going to even hide this. I don't care if they even hear it, honestly. But I want to make sure, they told me when I came back on Monday, they said this could take up to a month, and I haven't even gotten started yet, to read through all this paperwork. At least a month. And I'm supposed to read it at my own pace, so trust me, I'm going to take as long as it takes me, and I'm going to make sure I do understand this stuff, because I don't want to have that happen to me. We're going to say, well, you read over this paperwork, and you said you understood it. It's all on a computer. I'm figuratively speaking. And have them come back to me and say, well, you signed off on this. Well, guess what? If it takes me even 6 months to read, another 6 months to read through all this stuff, I'll make sure it does. I'm not saying that I'm being sarcastic, but I want to make sure that, I understand this stuff that even in my sleep. I don't want to hear them bitch and complain. If they say, well, it's taking you too long to read through all this stuff, it's like, well, you should have thought about that before you had me out for 6 months, that I have to relearn all this stuff, retrained on all this stuff. And, basically initially have no help on doing it. Now, that was another thing. When I got hurt and I went out, apparently all of a sudden, a guy told me yesterday, he said, yeah, they were running tons of overtime to replace the work that I did as a single person, because I got stuck with a hell of a lot of work. Now, when I did it, they said, well, you need to pace yourself. We can't give you any help. When I go out, that I was sent out for 6 months, all of a sudden, the people that were still there, they couldn't handle it, and even the people they got on overtime couldn't handle it, so they had to get help for the people on overtime. And all of a sudden, it turned into a whole charade, so they got all these people getting hand over fist in overtime, and tons of people, and they're actually getting written assignments on what they need to do. They never did that for me. They never did that for me at all. So now all of a sudden, they're doing all this stuff, and it's just a bunch of BS. It really is. So I come back anyway, though. I know it's just for me to vent myself. This is one of these iWalters I want to vent myself. So all I do is get the cold shoulder from a majority of people, and the little click things going on. It's like, yeah, nothing has actually changed at all. I actually gave myself an unofficial office desk, which I thought would have been gone by now. It wasn't touched for 6 months. I was actually really shocked. So everything was there. Even I had a Xerox copy of my college diploma sitting on one of the cubicle walls. It was still there. Not one single hair of anything on my desk was touched. And it's not an official desk. It's just they laid off so many people at this point that they there's plenty of open desks that they didn't even bother. Now, normally what they do is they get company people they hire temporarily, or hire people as company people for a temporarily, and they're going to look for the cleanest desk and just basically become a squatter of that desk, which would have been mine. And I was really afraid. I didn't think about it all the time. I thought about it when I got back. Somebody's going to be a squatter at my desk and just basically redo the whole desk. But they didn't. They didn't even touch it. They never touched a thing on my desk. Not mine, really, but I'm just saying. But dealing with that other bullshit, and you know what? It's predominantly a lot of women that work there too. That's always an issue. So, and what's funny? This is another side note. I've been taking everything's been a side note tonight. But I watched this video and I put it on. I don't even know where it is anymore, and it's not actually what I wanted to talk about because there was something from Peter Schiff that Matt. I did watch it, Matt, the other day. Matt's not with me. I'm just saying in case he listens. I did listen to most of it on Monday on this Peter Schiff. That's actually what I wanted to bring up next. I haven't even got remotely close to it. So, anyway, I'm not going to even bother looking for it. It's way too deep, and it's way too late. It's going to be 3 o'clock. It is 3 o'clock already, so I've been already on for a long time. But, sorry about that. I wanted to mention about Peter Schiff. That's what I was saying. But this one guy, I forget who he is. I really like him a lot on Facebook. And what he does is put up these things on how, he doesn't, it's like a no holds bar for this guy. He puts up these videos on YouTube. They end on Facebook, but they end up on YouTube. And what he does is he puts up how, all the inequalities in the U.S. And he doesn't stop with just, I don't know how else to put it, sexual harassment with women. He also does it with sexual harassment with men. He does it with, if you saw a kid on the street, because he took his own brother, he put him on the street as a homeless person, and see how many people would stop to give the kid money up in New York. And generally, nobody does. The only one who would on that particular case, with his own brother being a homeless person, pretending to be, was another homeless black man who actually came up to him and he says, he had no money. He had very little money. This homeless guy, I remember watching this one time. I don't know the guy's name who does these videos, but he's really cool. This homeless black man came up and he took the shirt off his own back and put it on the kid. And he says, I don't have much money, but here you go. He felt so bad for this kid. He says, we have to stick together as homeless people. He didn't realize this was a setup. So that was really heart-wrenching. Now, he did one, I think it was the other day I was watching. I wanted him to do a podcast on it. It was like, I got to worry about work right now. I'm not going to worry about these videos. They're not stupid either. I was going to say these stupid videos, but I didn't. And they're not. So I did one where this girl, these are all people, it's a circle of people who make these videos, a circle of friends. So he did an experiment where he had this girl pretending to be a girlfriend of this guy, beating the shit out of her boyfriend in public. Not one person stops. Not one person. And she was like, the guy would say, "Oh, stop picking on me. You're harassing me." And she was pushing him and kicking him for no reason at all. And she was being abusive, like pretending to be an abusive girlfriend who was, and this stuff apparently really does happen. I believe it does. I've been in similar situations. Matt, you would know if that one girlfriend I had, which she was verbally abusive to me all the time. You've seen it yourself. You even made some comments. You know who I'm talking about. So that does happen. But it gets laughed upon. It gets ignored when it's a guy. So they reversed the whole situation after so long of doing it that way. Well, the guy was pushing the girl around, but he wasn't actually being the abusive boyfriend. Instead, he was defending himself. He was being the boyfriend who defends himself and telling the girl, "Stop picking on me," and yelling at her. It was a matter of seconds. I think they said on the video it was a matter of 3 minutes before a guy came up and started beating the shit out of him. Even though he said, "Stop picking on me, stop, hitting me." The guy pretending to be the boyfriend. Somebody came up and tried to starting to beat the shit out of the guy. That this whole thing was set up. Now, when the girl was beating the shit out of the guy, that was okay. The guy wasn't even beating the shit out of him. He says, "Please stop hitting me. I don't like it." And he gets the shit beat out of him. So the bottom line is there's a double standard. And that's true in real life. So I had to mention that. And it's just amazing. And things aren't going to change until people change. That's the problem. And they're not going to change. People are always going to take the side of a woman, or they're going to take the side of a minority. And I don't mean to pick on minorities of any sort. I'm technically a minority if you think about it, too. I'm Sicilian. I'm not even... technically, I'm not a Caucasian. I'm an Italian. I'm Sicilian. So, the bottom line is, I may look American. Well, I am American. But technically, I'm a minority myself. So... but people don't want to hear that. They just see me as being, well, he's a white male. He's the one who's repressing everybody else. And it's not even true. I couldn't even repress a kid, because I even got picked on by kids before as an adult. Because I even worked on these daycares and summer camps. Years ago, I both. At different times, of course. I worked at a daycare before. I actually interned at it for one of my degrees when I was trying to go for a counselor. I had to work as basically an after-school program counselor where I had to write up reports. And I had those kids pushing me around. These were like 13-year-olds. So, I don't know where I'm going with that. There was a point to that, but I'm just saying. So, anyway, my friend Matt, I did want to listen to the whole thing. I think it's a good long time. I think I have my volume turned off so I can, on my computer, I put up the story so I can look at the time. Yeah, it's about 37 minutes long. And it was something from Peter Schiff. I hope that's the one, because now it says, "Can Trump make America great?" Yeah, I guess it was that one. It says the Peter Schiff Show podcast, episode 151. I think I have him beat by now on stories. But his are actually have a lot to say in them, though. So Peter Schiff there's some reason I brought it up, I guess, because everybody's been, and even tonight they're attacking Trump. There's a woman I was talking to. I love her dearly, but she was actually down, like she doesn't like Trump and she's afraid of him and things like that. And she found stories on how Trump years ago was even saying he was going to try to run for president or something. And she said a couple things. I want to go into that, too. But Peter Schiff did make a couple points about Trump you do have to be worried about. There's no denying that. I still prefer him over Hillary Clinton. But, and I used this in my defense tonight, too, because I was talking to this woman. I love her dearly. And she's out of the closet. Not even in the closet. She's lesbian. She's a very nice woman. She's also ultra-Democrat. And she said she was going to vote for Hillary, and she was giving me all these excuses. But she reads like CNN and stuff. So, and she believes also, she kind of brought in the picture tonight, this woman, I'm not going to mention her name because, I'm going to protect her. She also believed in global warming. And it was like, you really believe in global warming? She said, well, they went back on records that dated back to the 1800s. So it's like, yeah, but even the 1800s, the human footprint on this planet is like very, very little. It's not even like a grain of sand on a beach. The amount of time we've been on this planet, the human history and just human beings in general, or any type of, humans in general. So by saying, there's been a change and it's been man-made because of the change in the temperature, I don't care. You're talking 1800s. What is that? 2,000 years ago then? 1800s, like 2,000 or 3,000 years ago? Well, what happened? Do you have any information from 4 billion years ago? So we don't know what's going to happen in a matter of a couple thousand years. Yeah, things are going to probably drastically change because we have nothing to go by. We only go, that's kind of showing a little bit of arrogance as human beings to think that, well, in the last 100 years, the weather has changed, from our records, or 200 years ago, or 1,000 years ago, has changed drastically from our records from the 1800s, which is not even that long. Wait, 1800s, 1900s, the 21st century. 300 years ago, the temperatures from our records 300 years ago were drastically different from now. Well, that's not even less than one grain of sand on the beach. That's not even that. So you can't go by that. That's the Democrats scaring people and believing it. Now, there was some stuff she said that was, some valid points she said tonight. I don't remember everything, the woman I was talking to. But she did bring up politics, and I learned just to keep my mouth shut. There's certain people you learn just to keep your mouth shut. You don't want to get in an argument with them out of respect. And, they always say politics is one of the things you don't want to mention. She mentioned some stuff that was valid, because I'm looking at one story now. And, there is and she was right about this, there's always been throughout history, there's always been some type of discrimination on your skin color, your religion. She's like Irish descent. And she brought up about the war in Ireland. They forgot what they were fighting about. And it ended up being something totally different from what they started out. And, it's against, Catholics against, is it Christians against Protestants or something? I can't remember. I think I brought this up before. Or just there's even racism amongst the same race. And we brought that up. And that's true. That's always been the case. And I said about World War II. So there's always some type of discrimination. That she was valid about. But the thing about the weather she was wrong about, I think. But I think her heart's in the right place. She just is being manipulated by what she reads. See, I'm a little bit different. I'm a lot different that way. I mean, I do go by the Republican side, the conservative side. But at the end of the day, I'm going to still make my own decision no matter what I hear or what people tell me. I mean, Matt can validate that too. So, I don't care what either party says. I'm going to still make my own mind up on what I think and say, no matter what people tell me. So, but the thing that I got from listening to the bit that I did on this woman with Peter Schiff was, when somebody tries to say something and the way you deal with people that don't think on the same way you do is you kind of got to defuse the way of thinking. You don't want to get them angry because that's not going to get you anywhere, and you're not going to have any type of conversation. So when she even not even attacked Trump, she just is afraid of Trump. She's afraid if Trump gets in that it's going to be dangerous. And she did say about, we got to worry about what's happening in China. I can't remember exactly. She's better with that stuff. What's happening in China and Russia with the superpower there. And also, because I kept on bringing it up about what's happening in Iran now that they have nuclear stronghold on nuclear weapons that they're making. So she's afraid, though, if Trump gets in office, he's going to, with his temper, which I think he's kind of calmed down quite a bit. And I don't think his temper is just for show. But she's afraid that his temper is going to cause World War III. She kind of basically said that directly. She's afraid that World War III might break out with him. I seriously doubt it won't. Now, I was listening to things with Peter Schiff, and there's one thing I disagree with Peter Schiff that he didn't like. He said that Trump's going to spend a lot more money on military spending. Now, realistically, this is what kept us safe for years, because who else did that? Now, Matt, you can correct me if you listen to this. Was Ronald Reagan strengthened our military task force, and that kept us safe for years because, when we were fighting to disarm or have, disarm themselves, Russia or the USSR back in the day, they kept on making more and more nuclear missiles, and then Reagan said, well, we'll make more too. We're going to, whatever amount of weapons you have pointed at us, we're going to point the same amount back at you. And, it was just, who had the bigger balls or who was going to step down first. And obviously, I'm sorry, I'm trying to adjust some stuff. Eventually, they gave up. And they I think, if I remember correctly, Matt, you can correct me on this too. I thought they went bankrupt or something. Well, not bankrupt. They went belly up because they were spending so much money on making more nuclear weapons that they basically, I'm trying to think of the right word. They basically, that's the best way I can put it. They bankrupt themselves. So not that we have the money to spend on military, but you know what? Military is also the people you hire for the military. There you go. You hire, not only you're protecting our country, but that's putting people into jobs. And my brother made a career out of the military, my oldest brother. So that, some people, they can actually get my brother's kids, one of his kids, I think two of them actually went into the military, and they made a career out of that. They're getting their education paid for the GI Bill, and they enjoy it. They get to travel and everything else. The military is not that bad, and the plus side of that is you're protecting the people of our country. So that was one thing. I did have to disagree with Peter Schiff. He doesn't think it's been pretty much torn apart. It's been torn down to like the bare bones with Obama for the last 8 years. So there's that. I'm going to cut this short soon because it's getting really late for me. So there's that problem. Oh, wait, my computer shut. Oh, okay, good, it did. So, but Peter Schiff did say, oh, wait, it locked out. I'm going to have to unlock my computer. Peter Schiff did say, the other problem is with what Trump is saying is that he wants to build a wall and have, and I mentioned this kind of diffused this woman a lot, that Trump wants to build a wall, but he's going to charge a tariff tax on anything getting imported from Mexico to the United States. Well, it's not going to hurt it's not going to hurt Mexico. It's actually going to hurt us more because most of the stuff we get, it's not only just from Mexico. A lot of stuff does come in from Mexico. Like my car is a Volkswagen. It's a German-made car, but it's actually manufactured in Mexico. So if that car comes over, there's a tariff tax. That's going to raise the price of what I pay for that car. And it's going to get to the point that I can't afford it. Is that going to bring jobs back to the U.S.? No, it's not going to bring any jobs back. It's actually going to make it harder. And those jobs aren't coming back to the U.S. They're going to still continue to do this manufacturing or we're going to be importing stuff. So it's just going to make the cost for us a lot higher. And my friend Matt said this too. Even with China, if you put a tariff tax on stuff being imported from other countries, our only domestic exported thing that we export that I know of is entertainment. Nothing of any other importance other than entertainment is the main thing. That's not the only thing, but that's the major thing is entertainment. Everything else that we get is imported from other countries. So by putting a tariff tax on, I think this is what Peter Schiff was saying, it's not going to make anything any better. It's not going to bring the jobs back. It's just going to make it that much worse. And I might have heard that from Matt, too. So I got to give him an acknowledgement, too. And I'm not doing a very good job of explaining myself or explaining what I thought I heard. So that was that's the issue that could be a problem with Trump. Do you think Trump would get us into a World War III? I seriously doubt it. I think he's more talk. Now, this woman I talked to today, she says, well, he's got a bad temper. You know, he's filed for bankruptcy more than once, but he seemed to pull himself out. And he may know how to run a business, but he definitely doesn't know how to run a country. And she's afraid when he goes, which he wouldn't do it, it would be the Secretary of State most likely, I would think. I could be wrong about this. That would be, I found that video, by the way, too. I'll mention that in a second. That, you know, because that's what Hillary is supposed to do. She was Secretary of State. I think I got this right. I could be wrong about this, too. But, yeah, the issue is, though, this has really upset me with this whole bullshit with these double standards. That she's afraid, this woman I talked to, she's afraid that Trump's going to, you know, get these hot heads from the guy from Russia, the one from China. I can't remember his name, or even like any other negotiations he would do with these foreign people or people from other countries that are in power. He's just going to cause them to basically point the weapons at us and destroy, you know, kill many people with his mouth. I don't think he would do that because I've heard the man talk, and the stuff that they hear him in these rallies, you know, the things they try to point out of him being a hothead, I have not seen that. I saw him on TV one night on some talk show, and I didn't see that vicious person. They seem to like find those parts and manipulate what people watch. And that bullshit of him being like Adolf Hitler, I really don't think that's going to be the case. I think when he finally, if he got into power, for one thing, he's just basically saying what he needs to say to get elected. That's obvious. Now, he's not going to do remotely a lot of the stuff he's going to do. And he's not going to be able to, we had this discussion, me and Matt, he's not going to be able to deport all these people like he said he's going to do. A lot of these people in this country, actually, believe it or not, because I heard somebody calling like about this, a guy actually depends on these illegal immigrants that he hires to work for him because they're not going to give him a hard time. So, you know, if these people are keeping businesses going, Trump's going to say he's going to deport all these people. He's really not going to do that. I seriously think if he actually became president that he's even going to do anything against Hillary, too, of, you know, incriminating her. That's all bullshit just to get himself elected. I understand that. I'm not that dumb. But they really think that he's going to, this hothead they see, or they think they see, because that's what the media and the press keep on pushing out, is going to cause us to get ourselves killed. I seriously doubt it, because I think somebody who actually is not afraid to, you know, speak out, most likely, I would think, would have the opposite effect even on other countries. This is my opinion, though. I think it would get people like, well, wait a minute, we can't trust this. I mean, this guy, we can't trust this guy. This guy really scares us, because, I mean, Reagan was a little bit, in my opinion, again, I'm just going by that, was kind of like that. Like, he did not step down to people who threatened our country. He actually stood up for what he believed in, and because of that, he kept us safe when he was in office for 2 terms. So I feel a little bit more safe with him than I do with Hillary, who Hillary definitely, you know that she's lying. She's got caught in lies before, and that was another thing. I got to look at that before I would end the show tonight. But I feel a little bit more confident, and it's not because you're saying that 'cause she's a woman. No, that has nothing to do with it. It's just she's a liar, and she's very dangerous. When, you know, even being Secretary of State, she didn't make me feel any safer. And if that whole shenanigans would happen in Benghazi, I mean, she obviously did not do her job then. Neither did President Obama. He was just a total waste of space. He, you know, as I said to this woman tonight about Hillary's husband, he was an empty shirt, and I think that even more so of President Obama. He's an empty shirt with a big mouth. He does have a big mouth, and he doesn't do anything besides just make things worse. I think she's even more dangerous than President Obama is. If we get her in office, and I kind of pointed out to this woman tonight, I said, well, that the Affordable Health Care Act is really destroyed. I'm really afraid about that, and the high wages they're paying low wage jobs that used to be low wage jobs. So now they're paying them $15 an hour. They're forced to pay for their insurance, and they're putting companies out of business, basically, literally, because it's happened in the West Coast a lot now. Like McDonald's and some other chains have had to close down. They can't afford for paying these employees $15 an hour, and on top of it, have to pay their insurance. So, and she agreed with me. And then she said, and I said the Affordable Health Care Act, she said, oh, yeah, it's really affected my mother now, who's retiring or has retired. She can't afford to pay for insurance. She said it's too costly. It costs pretty much probably 3/4 of what she gets in from Social Security. Now, I've mentioned this before, but who was the one who actually came up with, and she even said she thinks the brains behind when Bill Clinton was in office, and I said, I agree with that, was probably Hillary Clinton. It wasn't him, because he was too busy panty chasing around his Oval Office when he was in the Oval Office. So, that being said, what is the Affordable Health Care Act that got Obamacare written all over it? That was originally the Clinton Affordable Health Care Act, that basically was just renamed and probably added a few more pages to it. So you're putting the person who was solely responsible for making this healthcare system that we now have in that we are now using, that has destroyed this country, and you want to put that same person now into office for probably 8 more years. I'm not saying that she's the one who made it, but I'm sure she had some responsibility behind it. And that and if not, it's that Clinton name at least that's in there, and I think they're equally both as guilty for destroying this country as far as the Clintons go. And you want to put, you're thinking that, it won't be Barack Obama, but you're going to get somebody worse. It's like what that old saying is, out of the frying pan into the fryer. Basically, that's what it's going to be. And, she's afraid also, this woman I talked to tonight, she said people are voting for Trump because they're tired of both sides of the party, both the Democrats and Republicans. And it's like, yeah, I think that is absolutely true. You're absolutely right about that. I'm even fed up about it. But the thing they don't see, look who you have running for the Democrats. You got Bernie Sanders, who's got one foot in the grave, and you got Hillary Clinton, who's a total nut job, and who is very power hungry. It's without a doubt. And people overlook, they say automatically, they see the R, they don't like anybody on the Republican side, on the right side. And it's like, well, Trump is definitely probably not your best choice, but he's much better than the other two. And if it's not for Trump, though, you do have Ted Cruz, Marco Rubio, and I forget who else. None of them are actually, and Ben Carson, I was a little worried about it. It's nothing against him, but I don't think he has the backbone to actually do what we need to do in this country. I think he would buckle in every time. So I would keep Ben Carson out. But you had Marco Rubio, you still do. You have Ted Cruz, but people look at them and they said, "Oh, they're not going to they're dangerous people." How do you know? What do you know about them besides what you hear from CNN and the tabloid news? You don't know anything. You're just going by what you hear on the TV and what they want you to know. You're not looking any further. I do. And I've said that before about Ted Cruz. I don't mind Trump. If I get Trump, I don't really mind. And I try to look at it at a different perspective than just, he's very dangerous and this, that, and other thing. And I think she kind of said this, you don't know what he's going to do when he gets in office. I think a lot of this stuff is just to get himself. Now, one thing she kind of made me scratch my head about, made me think about, and I think she's right, that I think Matt, you might agree with this. One worry that she was absolutely right about, how do you know that he won't turn around Donald Trump? And this was this was her speculation. This woman at work, that he basically is running to the bitter end under Republicans just for the sake of knowing that he will never be able to defeat Hillary Clinton, knowing that she will win, and that he's actually in an indirect way, not admitting to it at first, that he's doing this as a game just to make sure she will get in the office. And she said it in so many words or less that way, this woman I was talking to work, and I was like, wait a minute. You actually do have a valid point there. You really have a valid point. I didn't think about that, but she could have something going there. And I hope that's not the case, that Trump is just running to basically deflate any chance of Ted Cruz or any of these other candidates actually getting that, Matt, correct me on what GOP stands for, Grand Old Party, that we get Trump to run against Hillary, which he won't have a chance to win against her. If that's the case, that's what she's speculated, we're really in deep trouble. And people don't realize that. They think they're in trouble if they get Trump. They don't realize they thought how wonderful Barack Obama was going to be for this country, and look what he did in 8 years. He did nothing, and we're in a deeper debt than we ever have been, and we're in more danger and more susceptible of getting our country destroyed by these other countries, because we literally have no defense anymore. We have no defense. So that's the issue. And it's going to be worse because you're going to get 8 more years. When Hillary gets in, she's not going to get out. So I'm actually really worried about that. Anyway, real quick, because I'm going to make this short because it's going almost close to 4 now. The thing with this guy, and I'll look up his name then too. It's titled, I'm trying to see, Nobody Should Be a Victim of Abuse. Because you always hear about victims being women, but you never hear about being men. So they did this experiment, and it obviously proved, the proof was in the pudding, what they had videotaped. And I'm looking at the very end. It says, nobody should be a victim of abuse. Victims of abuse are not only women, but they are also men. This is what it says. And I thought he gave statistics. I'm trying to see. I thought he gave statistics, too. Because usually, generally, he does when he does this stuff. It says every 7 seconds a person is... Whoops, it started up again. Every 7 seconds... Oh, God, it keeps on going. Every 7 seconds a person is a victim of abuse. And it says it's not only women, it's men as well. And that the stakes are just as high. So, this was all play acted out. And I'm looking at it now. Yeah, and this girl is pulling this guy's hair for no reason, pushing him, dragging him, kicking him, really getting physical. I mean, it's all play acted. And it looks very convincing. Not one person stops to help the guy who is literally being slapped around and beaten. Let's see. What's he right here? Nobody did anything when a girl abused a guy. Okay, so I'm going to go. Then they reversed it. The guy wasn't as harsh as she was on him. And he was actually saying, stop picking on me. And some guy tries to beat the shit out of him. Like, literally, he's pushing him, dragging him down, trying to beat the shit out of him. I think he starts to. So I'm trying to look at what they wrote. Because I want to finish this one. I'm not going to say this was not important. This was actually really important. I thought he said somewhere in here, I can't find it where it was. Let's see. Let's see what happens when the guy, abuses the girl, which, again, it wasn't as vicious as what she did. She really got into it. I swear to, there was somewhere in here it said about 3 minutes into, not even 3 minutes. It was like a good half hour with the guy, maybe longer. And nobody stopped. This black guy is beating the shit out of this guy for the same thing. Well, not as bad, but when I see a girl remotely, even if you raise your voice to a girl, you're going to have every guy who's, again, I've said this before, who has to be chivalrous and has to step in. But again, that's a double standard, and you don't see it. Now, here's another interesting thing. The woman I was talking to tonight, she also said, and I bit my tongue really hard. She was actually saying that, well, women, women are better in combat and stuff because she was in the military and stuff. And she said, well, women are better in combat. They can handle stress better. And she says, having severe heart disease and everything on men is much higher than it is with women, because women can handle stress better. And it's like, well, you know why the statistics show that men have a higher rate? If you looked at the statistics all the way through, because she stopped and didn't look at the whole picture, the reason that men have a higher rate of, heart disease and everything else is because they are under higher scrutiny and higher stress than women are. That is the reason for that. She did not say that. I know that for a fact. Statistically speaking, that's the truth. But the women who take on the same pressures as men also have an increase in heart disease and other ailments that men do. But she did not say that. But I know that for a fact because I looked at statistics before. I don't have it in front of me that I can prove it, but I'm just saying it's the truth. Then she also said some other things, saying how women can do equally the same job, and even in the military, they can go through the boot camp and stuff like that. Well, I hate to tell you, I did look into boot camp, and I heard this from people when I was looking into the military and actually started doing it, never went all the way through. The thing was, they had to water down, and I've heard this, my brother was in the military for 27 years. And he was complaining about this, so to speak, too. What did they have to do? They had to water down boot camp a lot. They weren't allowed to touch you. They weren't allowed to scream in your face for very long. There was, because I heard this when I actually looked in at Willow Grove. I looked into it. I started the procedures. They go through all the things. They said since they are, co-ed type style with the boot camp, they had to change things drastically from the way boot camp was when my brother went back in the early 80s to boot camp. It was not even remotely the same thing anymore. So saying that women can do the exact same job is not actually the total truth. It's not even close to it, because they severely changed the way boot camp was when they started letting women into the military. And even doing the same jobs, you may say you give a woman the same job, but the way they treat the job is completely different, or the way the woman is treated in that job is completely different. That is something you would probably hear from Milo, too, I'm sure if you listened into that. So anyway, I'm going to cut this short. I said I was going to do it after the past 2 hours, whatever it was. But I'm looking at what happened tonight, the presidential primaries from last night, because it's 3-4 in the morning. And it says on the Republican side, Trump won in a landslide and everything on the East Coast. I guess it would be considered Florida. Is that all the East Coast? Florida, Illinois, Missouri, North Carolina, Ohio, and probably a couple other places. I'm not going to go through all of them. Yeah, there's Virginia, Texas. So it's all the different places. It's more than just the East Coast. Trump stands at 621, and I don't know if this is a percentage or what exactly it is. Cruz is only at 396. Rubio's at 168. And is that Kosh is at 138. I don't even know who he is. So then you go over to the Democrat side. There's only two people. It's Clinton and Sanders. Clinton's at 1,561, and Sanders is at 800. Now, again, that's a percentage or whatever. So both of them are, whipping the pants off of any of the Republican side. Now, here's one thing. I did read an article, and I thought this afternoon before I went to work, I thought I saw where they were tampering in Florida with the ballots, or whatever you call it, to see who would vote for Trump. They didn't put Trump on. I'm going to call them ballots. I'm not sure what they are, but they didn't even have Trump on the list. So there was no way they could even vote for, or figure out who would vote for Trump, because it wasn't even on there in Florida, is what I saw. So they got caught with their pants down on that one. But you're not hearing about that on a large scale. I did see an article somewhere about that. So, this is a problem. And then you wonder why, Hillary did really well in Florida and stuff. Yeah, no shit, because there was no way for people. They made sure to sabotage any possibility of anybody, casting, it's not an official one, but casting a vote for what do you call it? For Trump. So, if this stuff's happening already, what's going to happen when the actual election does take place, when they're getting caught in games like this and there's nobody to stop these people? So that's another thing that honestly scares me too, because what's that telling me? That's telling me that she's got a shoe-in on getting in office, because they're gonna I'm trying to think of the right word. They're gonna make sure to sabotage any possibility of the Republicans remotely getting close. If they can't vote for a person, they can't cast a vote. That's and nobody's going to stop that. That's another problem that I'm afraid of already. So anyway, folks, I'm cutting this off. It's 4 a.m. I'm not going to be able to do this all the time. So hope you like what I said. I have no clue what I said. So everyone, have a good night. And I'll make sure I say this right, because Matt corrected me on this, and I'm glad he did. Don't get me wrong. If you are listening to me, I appreciate it. And if you like what I do say, try to get other people to listen to me as well. And everyone, thanks a lot. This is iWalter, and I am signing off for now.